Hello folks, in this session we are going to see what is Active Directory, what is a role-based access control, that is RBAC, and how with the combination of Active Directory and role-based access control, any user is being given access to a different Azure resources. So first, before showing Active Directory, let me create a resource in the Azure portal. So to create a new resource, first I should create a resource group. So I will explain about this resource group and resources in another session. But on a high level, resource group is nothing but it's like a container. Within this resource group, you can create any number of resources you want, including virtual machines, storage accounts, etc. etc. So let me first create this resource group. So it automatically selects my subscription. So in the resource group, I'm going to give a resource group name. And you have an option to select the region. So the best practice is to always select the nearest geographical region. But in this case, for demo purpose, I'm just choosing East US. So I'm going to give next. It asks for tags. Again, tags is all used for the billing purpose, which I will explain in another session. So I'm going to create this resource group. So it has validated and sorry, and I'm just creating this. Right. So that is now the resource group has been created. So now I'm going into the resource group and let's say I'm going to add any resource. Okay. So let me create a new resource called storage account. So I'm just searching for this storage account in the marketplace. Yeah. So I'm creating this storage account. Again, whenever you're going to create a resource, it will ask for the subscription and the resource group under which it has to be created. So I'm selecting this, it has automatically taken my default resource group. Then I'm going to give the storage account. So the storage account name has to be unique across the Azure portals. So I'm going to give a unique name here. So let me just give it as sp57 storage. So as you see, it has automatically taken the region as East US. Because this resource group was created in the region East US, it has taken the same region for this storage account also, right? So I'm fine with this. So it has options like standard and premium. So for demo purpose, I'm just going with the option standard. So it has again options to select under this redundancy. I'm going to go with the minimal option, which is locally redundant storage LRS. So I'm just going to click next advanced. So I'm not going to change any of the options here. I'm just going to keep going next, 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 and review and create this. Again, it is running validation. Validation has passed, and I'm just creating this storage account. Okay. So now the idea is to show how a new user is added into Azure Active Directory and how that new user can be granted access to work with Azure resources. So first, let me go to the Azure Active Directory. So to access Azure Active Directory, if you have accessed it recently, you'll be finding it in the Azure services here. But if you are going to access it for the first time, you can search in this search bar for Azure Active Directory. Yeah, and you can select this Active Directory. Okay, in this case, let's say uh, this is a company XYZ and a new user Vijay has joined this company. The idea is to uh, provide access to the Azure resources to Vijay so that he can start his work in the company. So the first step in this is the user Vijay has to be onboarded by creating an entry in the Azure Active Directory. So the Azure admin first will go to the Azure Active Directory and he will create a new user for the employee Vijay. So let's say I'm the admin. So I'm going to do add user. I'm creating a user ID for Vijay. So Vijay A. So I'm just going to give employee name here. Vijay A. Give first name, last name. Vijay last name. So here if you see there are two options, auto generate password or let me create password. So I'm going to choose the option let me create password. So what it enables is when I create the user ID and pass this user ID and the default and initial password to Vijay, when he logs in, if I select this option let me create the password, it will enable Vijay to select his own password as per his wish. So I'm going to just give some initial password here. And again here there are something like groups. I'll explain this in another session. For now the idea is to create a user and provide him access to the resource. I'm going to give his job title something like application engineer, department. I'm just going to give us IT, company name XYZ for the purpose. I'm creating this user. Right. So the new user Vijay has onboarded the company and a new account has been created for him in the Active Directory. So now what happens? The admin will share the username to Vijay. He'll say, hey Vijay, your user ID is available and you are good to start with your work in Azure portal. So the admin will share the ID and password to Vijay. So what is the ID here? You see something like user principal name, right? This is nothing but the ID. You can select here or you can click here and then you can select the username here. So this username will be shared to the user Vijay along with the password in a different mail. So now let's say Vijay is going to log into the Azure portal for the first time, right? Okay, so I'm going to use another account. I'm going to use the user ID of Vijay to log into the Azure portal. Since the admin would have passed the username and the initial password for Vijay, right? So I'm going to use the initial password here. I'm signing in. Yeah, so it again asks for the initial password and prompts to select new password. So I'm going to do that. Okay, as you know, in Azure portal, there are ways to protect your identity, you know. So there are options like multi-factor authentication where you can enable fingerprint in your own mobile to, to make sure that the identity is protected. But in this case, just for demo purpose, I'm just going to skip for now, giving next. Again, it's asking, I'm just going to skip for now. Again, it is asking for your country, your phone number, so that it can text you and verify. Anyway, this is just for demo purpose. I'm just skipping this setup as well. It's asking stay signed in. That's fine. Yes. Okay. So now Vijay has successfully logged into the Azure portal. So as part of the project, now Vijay wants to access the resource group and work on that storage account. So what Vijay does is he's trying to find that resource group, but he cannot see any resource group here. Why? Because currently what we have done is only a new user ID has been created for Vijay in the Azure Active Directory. So to access that particular resource and work with that, there needs an additional level of permission that has to be given. That is called RBAC or role-based access control. Only if this role-based access control is given, any new user would be able to access the Azure resources. Right. Now let me show you how this RBAC is done. To provide the RBAC, again I have to log into my admin account. So I'm going to sign out from Vijay's account and I'm going to log into the admin account. Right. Okay, so this is my admin account. I'm just selecting this. Password is stored. Signing in. Yes. Okay. So now what is the aim now? We have created the user for Vijay. We have to provide him the RBAC, like role-based access control to this specific resource group. So what happens is when I select this resource group, and if I give the necessary permission to this resource group, what will happen? All the resources that gets created under this resource group will get those permissions, inherited actually. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to select this access control, IAM. This is the option which we use to give this RBAC or role-based access control. I'm selecting this access control IAM, and I'm going to add role assignment. Let's say I want to provide contributor access to the new employee Vijay. So I'm selecting this option contributor. So as you see, these are all the different roles available as part of RBAC. You have something like owner, contributor, reader. So these are all like built-in roles. You can use these built-in roles, or sometimes even you can, if you want, you can create user-defined role as well. Anyway, that's all for the next topics to discuss. But for now, I'm selecting this contributor, and I'm going to add this member Vijay's ID. So I'm going to, it says assign access to user group or service principal. So I'm going to select members and select Vijay's ID here. Select. So what has happened here? I have selected Vijay and added him to be a contributor to this resource group. Just clicking on review and assign, review and assign. Okay, so if you see here, Vijay is being added as a contributor to this resource group. So now let me log out of this and log in again using Vijay's account to see if he is able to access that particular storage account inside that resource group. Yeah. Okay. Right. So I'm just going to log in using Vijay's account. Just enter the password. Signing in. Again, I'm just going to skip this because this is just for demo purpose. I don't want to configure this multi-factor authentication as of now. Next, again, I'm just going to skip this. Again, I'm going to skip this setup as well. I mean, it asks multiple times. It's okay. Yes. Okay, here we are. So, just clicking on the resource group to see if Vijay can see this. Yes. Now Vijay is able to see this resource group. Okay, because the access has been granted in the resource group level, Vijay is now also able to see the storage account also. Now Vijay would be able to work on any resources that are added as part of this resource group. Right. So now we saw how a new user is created in the Active Directory and how the new user is, configured with role-based access control to access a resource group or any resources within a resource group. Now, let's take a scenario in the company XYZ. Tomorrow there is going to be more number of users getting onboarded. So do you think it is viable to provide this type of access for each user every time? It is tedious, right? So in this case, we are going to use the concept of groups. Let me show you that. So let me log out of this again and let me log back to this admin account. So let's say tomorrow in this company XYZ, there are going to be hundreds of employees joining and they will be joining this IT team. So it is not advisable or it is not viable to grant every user independently rights to these resource groups and resources, correct? So in that case, we are going to create a group and assign all these users under this group and provide this role-based access control just to this group. So what will happen to the n number of users, like how many number of users you can create and you can add them to be part of this group. So all the access this group has acquired will automatically pass down to all the users. Let me show you that. So I'm going to log into the admin account. Use the password. Yes. Okay. So again, where I have to go? Yes, Active Directory. I'm going to Active Directory now. You see option users and also groups, right? I'm clicking on groups. First, I'm going to create a new group. Let's say I want to name the group as IT application engineers. So as of now, okay, there are two options in membership type: assigned, dynamic, and third one is for device. I'll explain this later, but for now we are going to see how this group is created and how the access, or I mean how the RBAC is given to this group. So first let me create this group. Okay, so the group has been created. Now let's say in real-time scenario, more number of employees are getting onboarded to the company XYZ. So let's take two users just for this example. So I'm going to create two new users. Create new user. Just for demo purpose, user one. So again, here also I'm just going to give this. Let me create password. I'm setting up initial password. So of course you'll have to fill all this job title, department, etc., etc. So I'm just going to give create. Okay, so first user has been created. I'm again going to create an entry for another user. Create new user. User 2. User 2. Okay, so again I'm going to select, let me create password. I'm just setting up initial password. Okay, so as you see here, there is an option to add the groups here itself. But anyway, I'm not doing it here. Let me show you how it is done. So again, I have to give the job title, department, all those details here. I'm creating this user as well. Right. So just think in terms of real time. So you have two users onboarded the company. So for those two users, the admin has created entries in the Active Directory. Basically, he has created user IDs in the Active Directory. Now, I don't want to control this role-based access control based on each users. Rather, I want to do it based on a group. So first, what I have to do, I have to create a group, which I already have done. So now my next step is to include these two users to be part of that group. So let me do that. I'm going to this directory, groups, IT application engineers is the new group I had created. So I'm going to this members. I'm going to add members. User one. Okay, so user one and user two, these two users. These are the two users I'm going to add to be part of this group. Right, so it is done now. So now, again, I'm going to do the same step. I'm going to select the resource group. Yeah, searching for resource group. Yeah. So I'm selecting this particular resource group to which I am going to provide access. So again, please remember, whenever you want to configure RBAC role-based access control, you have to use this option, access control IAM. I'm going to select this and I'm going to add here. Do you remember last time I added this for user Vijay? Now instead of user, I'm going to do this for a group. First, I will have to select members. Sorry, I have to select first role. What is the role you're going to give? I'm going to give as contributor access. I'm selecting this. Then I'm going to members, assign access to. So user group or service principal. Here I'm instead of user, I'm going to select the group. So IT application engineers is the group. So I've selected this. In same steps, review, assign, review, assign. So it is adding this. So let this happen in the back end. So now I'm going to log off from the admin account, and I'm going to use the user ID to log in. Okay, let me copy the user ID from the admin account, which I missed it. So I'm just logging in again using admin account. So I'm going to Active Directory again. I'm going to user, and I'm clicking on this user to just get the user ID of this new user. So what happens in real time, the admin will send an email to this user. Hey, this is your new user. You can use this with the default password to log into your Azure portal. So what happens then? Then the new user uses his ID with the default password that has been set up, and he will try to log into the portal, right? So that's what I'm going to do now. Yeah, I'm going to queue next. So it will prompt with the default password, the initial password created. I'm providing this here. So it will prompt me to change the password, and I'm going to do that. I'm just signing in. Again, it will ask to set up multi-factor authentication. Anyway, I'm going to skip this being a demo. Next. Again, I don't know, it asks for 2 times. Again, I'm just doing the same. Here also I'm going to skip the setup. Okay, so yes. Okay, so the newly onboarded users, one of the user has logged into the Azure portal using his new account. So now already the access to the resources has been provided by configuring the groups, right? So the new user is going to check if he's having access to this storage account in the resource group. Hey, yeah. So he's able to find this storage account in the resource group. Now, any resources that are added to this group automatically those those resources will be given access to these users. So that's how a new user is added into the Azure Active Directory, and that's how we're using RBAC is access is granted to that desired resources. Hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you so much.